It's Jay from ASMR for Nerds. Today, I'm going to do something that I've spoken about several times before, which was eventually reading this book to you guys. Now, the reason why I chose this, or why I planned to read this, is because it is my absolute favorite Superman story ever written that I've read. And that's even taking into account classics like For All Seasons, All-Star Superman, even Death of Superman, which I've always loved, which, has mixed reviews. There is a reason why I chose this book today, and that is because Darwyn Cooke, the writer of this, who is also a very well-respected comic book artist, has passed away a few days ago at the age of 52. And it's funny, last year at Comic-Con, I was online to meet him, and the line was pretty long, and I stepped off and said, I'll see him next year. And so that's a big regret. He is one of my favorite artists, top 5, I'd say. Now this book, he did not draw it. It was actually drawn by Tim Sale, who is one of my favorite artists. So this team up of two artists that I love, one of them happening to be the writer, that's the reason why I initially picked this up. I did not know anything about the story at that point, and I'm glad I did because, again, it is my favorite Superman story. Just real quick about Darwyn Cooke, some of the work he's done. Probably he's most well known for his work on DC's New Frontier, but he had a great story that came out this past year called Twilight Children. I believe that's the last thing he worked on, but I'm not sure. He also had a run of doing variant covers for DC. In late 2015, I picked up a bunch of those. And he's done all kinds of things, and his art kind of feels like Disney for adults, kind of. It's really great, and it's a big loss in the comic book world to lose Darwyn Cooke. So I thought, to pay respects, I will read my favorite Darwyn Cooke work. So with that said, this one, I know you guys do mostly like to relax and often drift off, which is great. That's what I do when I watch ASMR videos. But if you can for this one, I'm actually going to split it up into 2 readings so that it's not one overly long video, so maybe you guys could catch most of or all of the reading, because this is one that is really worth reading, especially for Superman fans, but for comic book fans or just fans of well-written, sentimental kind of stories. So normally I don't read the introductions, but I'm going to today, because it is an introduction written by Darwyn Cooke, and I did not read this before I read the stories, because I read the stories initially in issue form. So let's get started with the introduction by Darwyn Cooke. It's probably best to cop it to it right off the top. Superman is tough, not in the bend steel in his bare hands way, although he is that. I'm talking about writing the guy. For close to 70 years, I don't know how to say that word, cadre of creative teams have been spinning Superman yarns. In that time, practically every imaginable story idea and character turn has been rolled out. Now let's add the fact that our boy is invulnerable, and you can't really hurt him. While we're at it, let's throw in a restrictive continuity stream that Harvard researchers would find daunting. Not a lot of room to move with, is there? When we began to discuss this project, I was apprehensive about becoming involved because I wasn't sure what I had to say about the character. Even the caveat that I could go back into Superman's rich history and tell a story from his past didn't help. Let me also point out here that I have no idea what is going on month to month in Superman's life. Continuity is retconned so often that I had no idea going into this project what the status quo of the character was. As I began to cast about for a story from Superman's past, the one thing that kept leaping out at me was the dreaded word Kryptonite. Long considered an overused gimmick, Kryptonite had been quietly downplayed in Superman stories since the early 70s. It struck me as an opportune time to reintroduce the deadly metal to readers, and it played quite neatly into the notion that this was to be a story about a key point in Superman's life. This brings us to continuity. I'm sure people assume I have a problem with overwrought continuity, and they'd be right. With yearly retcons and events, the status quo of the DC universe changes constantly. What was true last year may not be true this year, depending on which way the editorial team is directing the ship. When I got into comic book storytelling, it was to tell stories that would stand the test of time. I quickly realized that in order to do that, I would have to stay on the fringes of the DC universe, working on projects where continuity wasn't a critical issue. Still, continuity is unavoidable to a degree, and I had to decide for myself how I would address it. Over the course of planning New Frontier, I came up with the approach I've used ever since. I would do the projects that reflect the classic versions of the characters and strictly observe the original continuity set up by the architects of the character. This isn't meant to discount the thousands of incredible books that have been produced since modern continuity was established, as much as to put my work in a category that would keep it valid despite the current monthly continuity stream. Sooner or later, all continuity resets to zero, and by adhering to that zero continuity, my intention to keep the work fresh for as long as possible. My first job was to track down the first appearance of Kryptonite and see if the original story had enough merit to revisit. The first official appearance of Kryptonite was actually on the Superman radio show. I spent a day or two considering whether to find a copy of the broadcast and use that as a starting point for the story Tim and I would tell. I shelved this thought when I finally found a copy of the first comic book story that featured the poisonous ore. This brings me to the little wonder that is Superman number 61. Published in 1949, this landmark issue featured the debut of Kryptonite and Superman's discovery of the planet Krypton. The story is written by the immortal, and illustrated by Al Plastino. This is a fantastic story, and I mean that in the true sense of the word, not its modern sense. In a nutshell, a Swami con man, complete with jeweled turban, is conning his way up the ranks of the metropolis underworld, and has cast his attentions on Lois Lane. When Superman steps in to expose him as a fraud, he collapses in a faint. No one is sure why this happens, but the con man uses the opportunity to claim power over Superman. He quickly becomes top dog in Metropolis. From here we shift to a rather comical set of Batman-esque scenes, where Superman deduces that it must be something about the gem in the Swami's turban. He begins a mundane investigation from jewelry store through to the stone cutter, to the man who found the rock from which the stone was cut. This is where the story gets fantastic in a way that only vintage DC science and physics can. The man takes Superman to the exact spot where he found the meteor. He then points to the part of the sky it dropped out of. Using that precise direction as a starting point, Superman theorizes that if he flies in that exact direction fast enough, he can move quicker than time and find the meteor's trail and source. I'm serious here. Superman does just that and is somehow able to follow the meteor's trail back to the planet it came from. In a set of scenes that defy any kind of logical explanation, Superman is then treated to a greatest hits style slideshow trip around the planet. Discovering it is his home world and how his real parents ended up saving him. After figuring out that the stone is radioactive debris from his home world, he returns to Metropolis, kicks the Swami's butt, and gathers all the pieces of the meteor from around the world, dumping them into the Metropolis River. This is where I got excited. Wacky physics aside, this incredible story not only introduced Kryptonite, it featured Superman's first discovery of his home world. This would work. Two things occurred to me. First, I had to find a device to overcome the absurdity of how Superman discovers Krypton. More important, I had to wake to a notion that I'm fairly certain is relatively fresh for such well-worn material. When Superman started out, he knew he could take a lot more punishment than his fellow citizens, but he didn't know he was indestructible. There would be fear. He doesn't yet know that liquid nitrogen won't affect him. He doesn't know that inhaling lava won't kill him. At this stage, I presented these pieces I'd culled on the table for my partner Tim Sale. It was at this point that the story gained emotional weight outside the obvious. Tim's a romantic heart, and it was clear that the compelling aspects of the mythos to him were the themes of family and love. As he talked about Lex and Lois and the Kents, I began to think of the thematic notes Kryptonite reflected onto the cast. Superman is Lois's Kryptonite. Same for Lex. Our Swami became the gangster Tony Gallow, and I gave the Kryptonite a traveling companion named Bridgewater. I knew we had it at that point. Which leaves only the best part of Kryptonite. The stunning artwork by my collaborators, Tim Sale and Dave Stewart. This was my first real experience simply scripting a book for another art team, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart for making our story such a visual feast. I don't want to clog this up with a lot of log rolling, so I'll use one word to describe Tim's incredible talent. Ditko-esque. Not that he draws like Ditko, but that his work is fully and truly unique to him. Tim's world is his alone, and he has made it to the summit of his art form in the very artist way, as an individual artistic voice. For me, the best part of Kryptonite is the friendship that emerged between Tim and myself. Although we knew each other and had previously done a Batman short for his issue of Solo, this was our first chance to really get to know each other. To Tim, Dave, Mark G, Tom Palmer, and Richard Starking, thank you guys. You pulled me through this and I needed it. Like I said, Superman is tough. Darwyn Cooke, May 2008, East of Utopia. So let's get started. Between the particles and motes that swarm into mass and space and light, we have always existed. Ours is to know, mine was to observe, and at my discretion, record. Miscalculation has led to this. I'm linked to this Kryptonian creature, born together through unknown galaxies. We separate on the lip of salvation in an orchestra of light. My spirit plummets like a star from the heavens. It is felt more than known. Without him, I cannot exist. Boom. I begin to observe a mosaic of familiar energies, each unique in its expression. Timeless energies, the elusive whisper of atoms relaxing out of a violent thrall. Piquant energies, curiosity, fear, spiritual discovery, and awe. Behind a gentle current of vibrations, I sense the dim and distant energy of my fellow voyager. We are lost to each other. I succumb to the energy of the moment, and my need to observe such an overwhelming sense of harmony blankets this place. I come to rest within the hearts of these sweet and peaceful energies. Metropolis. Crazy. I had no idea Ace had the strength to do something like that. Advanced LexCorp modifications. I told you we were connected, boy. Here he comes. To no one who takes 2-to-1 he makes it. Covered. God help us. To my friends and colleagues, I'm just a farm boy in the big city trying to make his mark. To the rest of Metropolis, I've become a protector, a symbol of hope. Me, I just hope I don't screw up. It's been about 2 months now since I started what Ma calls my good work. Most of the time I get to help people in need. A week ago I was able to save a few hundred passengers in a crashing jet. Told you he'd make it. He hasn't made it yet. Let's go, you curs. And check your cameras. We're being paid for coverage. They all think I'm indestructible. Weapons don't check. Look, he's having trouble with it. Well, let's give him a hand, yes? I wish that I were so sure. I've withstood bursting shells, thousands of volts of electricity, raging fires, and countless other vicious acts of man and nature. I appear to be vulnerable, but am I? Or is it just a matter of time before I find the thing that can kill me? I believe I shall have the full juggle for my amusement. That lummox could use a good cooling off. You imbecile, not the tank. We're too close. They think I'm fearless, but each new cataclysm gives me one sharp instant of mortal fear. Oh, great. Will this kill me? Am I dying right now? Frozen into enough ice and steel to crush a titanium android. And I don't even feel it. Stolen moments. An hour here, 10 minutes there. I know it's not enough for a woman like her, but it's all I have to spare. The perfect woman at the worst possible time. I sometimes wish I'd not met her until later. Already there have been so many broken moments. So I overcompensate, but I know it's not enough for a woman like her. All right, Chief, I'll bite. What's the story? The story? How many times do I have to tell you? There's only one story lane. Metropolis. She's the story. Yes, very dramatic, Chief. Your point is well taken. Now, if you boys don't mind, I've got to file on the Carson homicide. You're off, Carson. Henderson is filing from your notes. And just for a change, Lane, why not listen to why I've pulled your story before you fly off your stick? The city of tomorrow. The question is, who's tomorrow? The casino. The casino and the arrogant son of a bitch that owns it. Easy, Chief. I mean, by all accounts, Gallow's a legitimate hotelier and entrepreneur. Why so bent out of shape? Are you patronizing me, Lane? Look at the facts. For decades, we've been seen as clean as a city this size can be. Our stats on vice-related crime are the lowest of any major city in America. Somehow this hotelier arrives from Nevada and has the pull to get both state and city approval for his project. The Utopia, all dressed up with rides, attractions, even an art gallery. It's all there to distract us from what lies beneath. Vice, prostitution, drugs. You know, Chief, I'd say that anti-gambling editorial's your purview. Keep it up, Lane. This isn't about opinion, Lane. It's about facts. We are going to prove the Utopia is a front for illegal activities, and that its owner, Anthony Gallow, is nothing more than an oily con artist. Chief, what is it, Kent? I mean to say, the planet has an entire division devoted to crime and city politics. Why pick us? That's simple, Kent. If Gallow can rig the city council and state regulatory boards, he can rig anything in this city. I need people I know are clean, who can't be bought. I figure that's you three. You figured right, Chief. Just tell us what to do. Kent, I want you and Olson to set up a surveillance. We have a derelict property that looks onto the back of the casino. Be sure to be discreet when you set up. Accounting will have expense money for you, and Olson has been cleared to sign out any equipment you need. I want round-the-clock tabs kept on the Utopia. You split the day into 12-hour shifts, and if you get anything, you report directly to me. Lane, you'll go after Gallow. Personally, want to know everything about him, from soup to nuts. Make a stink about the fact that I'm punishing you for one of your many transgressions, and forcing you to write a puff piece on Gallow for the society pages. That'll cover you in the office, and leave you free to access planet staff and resources. You have to get Gallow to do a face-to-face interview. I don't care how you do it, but get close to him. Of course, I'm Best Murphy. We're open all of 2 weeks, and a gang of playing cards on futuristic hoverboards almost destroys the financial district. The media have done everything but implicate us. That reptile Luther is threatening a lawsuit. Mr. Murphy, we do not need this kind of heat. I need you to make this go away. But how, Tony? There. I don't know. Have some celebrity killed or find a two-headed kitten. Anything to make those idiots in the media move on to the next shiny thing. What kind of range are we talking about? As long as she stays within the city limits, we should get a clear signal. I don't even know if it's entirely, legal. Lois, is that you? Well, that's quite a question, Clark. I mean, are any of us really us in this crazy mixed up world of ours? Can anyone truly say, Lois? Right. I forgot sarcasm is lost on you. Right. I forgot sarcasm is lost on you. Yes, Clark, it's me, Lois Lane. Testing 1, 2, 3. Kilroy was here. Waiter, I ordered the lobster. The rat cobbler is for my friend. And remember, it's not really goodbye. It's just me hanging up on you. Did you get that? If by get you mean, did I receive that? Yes. It doesn't matter who she calls. If she uses that phone, we'll get the signal and be able to listen and record. Still, I mean, it's a long shot that an operator like Gallow will implicate himself on the phone. But you never know. It's pretty scary, huh? What? That volcano down south. You've been watching it all afternoon. Yeah, pretty scary. Come on, Lane. There is no way Gallow will talk with you after the blasting old Whitey gave his little bingo hall. $20 says not only will he talk to me, he'll send a car to pick me up. You're on. Lois Lane from the planet for you, Tony. Hang up on her. She sounds rather insistent, sir. She wanted me to mention that she felt it was time the planet gave you more balanced coverage. Wait a minute, did you say Lois Lane? That's right, Tony. On second thought, I'll take it. Put her through. Miss Lane, no, the pleasure is all mine. Book 2. Tibet, 20 years ago. These creatures observe and mark time based on solar and planetary cycles. I have rested here in this hallowed place for 5 such years. Mine is a nature that is tuned to observation and documentation. Such being the case, I have focused on the gentle and scholarly ways of these beings. It is a state they call Zen. Trapped as my essence is within this monstrous stone, mine is not a situation of alternatives. Although I can still sense the one I journeyed here with, it is an indistinct impression as though from a great distance. Without him, I must remain as I am, and so it is that I am Zen. I was about to observe that this state was a fragile one, best practiced in isolation. Crash. After 5 years of solitude and peace, dormant receptors snapped up vivid life. A raging wave of information, fresh, unique, horrible. This one seems drawn to my form. I can feel this one is many things, but he is not Zen. Like the blossoms on the trees, I am borne away. That's right, Mr. Gallow. Okay, Tony. In the name of fair and balanced coverage, I'd like to do a profile that highlights your philanthropy and the positive news surrounding your casino. No, nothing heavy. Strictly lightweight for the entertainment section. Metropolis. I must say I appreciate the olive branch, Miss Lane. I'm doing my level best to prove to this town that a lot of good can come out of the utopia concept. Tell me, Miss Lane. Very well, Lois. Have you been to the casino yet? Uh-oh, busted. Afraid not, Tony. Ha. Shame on you, Lois. I insist we correct that right away. Why not come by this evening for dinner? I'll give you the grand tour. That sounds lonely, Tony, but I have an engagement this evening that I wouldn't dream of breaking. How about tomorrow at the hospital fundraiser? It's a poor substitute for dinner, but I accept. It'll give you a chance to see some of the good we're doing for the community. That sounds great, Tony. See you. Forgot to. Wait, Tony. Could you send a car? 10:30. Wonderful. Till then. $20. Coin in Ogilvy. We're in. You know, Clark, I can handle this. You've already stayed 2 hours into my shift. Why don't you go get some sleep? Sounds good. I've got a thing or two to deal with. See you in the morning. Keep your stick on the ice. Leaving several of the poorer citizens of the island cut off from hope of rescue, it is uncertain. Nowhere to land a chopper in there, and they can't make it to the beach. We've only got a few minutes before it'll be too late for the rescue crew as. Negative. They're scared of the breaches buoy. They get spooked the minute they see the chopper. God forgive us. Order the rescue teams out of the area. Reporting on the ground for the BBC. I'm here on the beach with the UN team. Hang on. This is incredible. Up in the sky. The man of steel himself. I don't know if you're picking this up, but everyone on the beach is cheering. If those poor villagers have a hope of salvation, it rests in the hands of Superman. Now, guys, I want you to pay attention because this is one of my favorite sequences in comics. What would you do? You have a date with a woman you're madly in love with, But if you go on that date, a village full of innocent people will die a horrible death. Could you live with making that choice? Pluck 2 children out of the hands of certain death, but there are still so many trapped. So I do what I can, and I hope she understands that I have no choice. This is incredible. Superman is carving a giant trench into the earth in an attempt to divert the lava flow. But I'm not a total fool. A woman like this won't wait forever. I have found her at times to be unpredictable. Good God, he struck a pocket of lava. It must be under tremendous pressure. If this was anyone but Superman, they would surely be lost to us. All I've done is make the problem worse. That's none of your business. Are we supposed to be talking about this? Fine. No, we haven't. Are you happy now? Look, Mom, I've got to go. He'll be here any minute. The only way out now is to go further in. Superman has poured into the island between 2 great rivers of lava. We can't see what's happening behind all this black smoke. I'm hoping I could drive holes into the island bedrock below sea level and divert the lava down into the water. I hit another vein of lava and all hell breaks loose. I'm scared now. It isn't the heat. Where are you, man? I can't find a wall or surface. All I see is orange light. There's no air. I'm suffocating. No, Tony, it's not that I was expecting another call. Now that you ask, yes, I have had a change of heart. Can you have a car here in 20 minutes? I pulled the flaming liquid down into my lungs. Madness and light. I'm drowning in a sea of fire. Very funny, Olsen. Just make sure you get all this on tape. Tape? Oh, you mean the sound file? No problemo, Lois. That mic in your purse will pick up anything within 12 feet or so. Try to point the clasp towards the 2 of you. I'll get less racket in the background. Good evening, Miss Lane. When you said you'd send a car, I didn't expect you to be doing the chauffeuring, Mr. Gallow. I only do this evenings trying to earn some extra cash. How refreshing, a man of character. Well, horrible devastation. If it hadn't been for the Man of Steel, I don't know if there would be anything left down alive there. It was touch and go for It sounds like it was a bad one, but he's fine. I think I hear him on the porch. Ma, I knew you'd be. Clark, Jonathan. Well, here we are, Lois. Really? I hadn't noticed. Are you saying it's a bit much? I suppose I did kind of go a little overboard. Just a touch. Tell me, Lois. Are you ready for a game of chance? Careful, Tony. I should warn you, I've played at some pretty big tables. There's a very good chance you'll go home empty-handed. Go ahead, dear, it's okay. It was so big, so many people, scattered about. I tried to get them all, but I know some of them didn't make it. I drove down under the rock thinking I could vent the lava into the sea. But it didn't happen the way I'd hoped. I was trapped down there. I got scared. The more I fought, the more I panicked. I knew the lava wouldn't hurt my skin, but my lungs. I couldn't breathe and I was scared and I thought, well, this was it. By sheer luck, I felt myself hit the rock above me, but I'd run out of air. My body involuntarily tried to pull in oxygen, and I felt my head and throat and lungs filled with lava. I guess I kind of lost it. The sudden rush of oxygen sent flame and sulfur into the sky. I was out of my mind with fear. The sudden rush of oxygen sent flame and sulfur into the sky. I was out of my mind with fear. The villagers, they thought I was a demon from the pits. Most screamed in terror and ran. Some dropped to their knees, begging and wailing. The looks on their faces, like it was some sort of supernatural freak. One woman, an old woman, the sight of me was more than she could take. She threw herself into the molten river. There was a dog. You know what they say, they could smell fear and shame. For that one moment, all I cared about was that I was still alive. Oh, Clark, you can't think that way and do your very best. And you can't save Jonathan. Pa, I'm sorry, I know I screwed up tonight. Please don't be disappointed with me. Disappointed? Oh, son, I couldn't be more proud of you. But the newspapers and TV, well, to them, you're just the mighty Superman. Nothing can harm him. He bends steel in his bare hands. They play it like you're indestructible. But tonight it hit me. How do we know? Your mother and I always just assumed that you could take anything this world can dish out. But what if you can't? What if one day you find something that can really hurt you, maybe even kill you? Bah, Clark, just listen to me. I want you to promise me something. I want you to promise me that if you ever need to talk about this type of thing again, you'll come to me. You see, your mother, well, she thinks you're invulnerable, and that's the way it's going to stay. If she thought you were in real mortal danger, I don't think she could bear up to it. Any man that would put that burden on a woman he cared about, well, he just isn't a man. Okay, Pa, I promise. And here we are. We hope you enjoyed the evening and will choose Gallow limo service for your next event. Now that you mention it, I may have need of your services tomorrow afternoon. Are you referring to the charity event at Schuster Memorial tomorrow? I am indeed. Shall we say 2 o'clock? Watch it, player. You're showing me your cards. Till tomorrow, then. Tony, I had a great time tonight. Thank you. Hi. So, that's where we're going to leave off. In the next video, we will do the next chapters and complete the story. I found this to be, although, like I said, I wanted to read this book to you guys for a while. It's obviously good timing. I mean, bad circumstances, but a good time to read it. It clearly deals with one's coming to terms with mortality through an invulnerable superhero. The panels of him in the lava I find to be powerful and very honest about, even just the fear of death. And as Darwyn Cooke has passed away, he has left us with some beautiful art and relatable, great storytelling. So we're going to read this slowly and finish it up in the next video. We're also going to continue our Civil War reading, which I was going to do today, but I just thought, let's take a break and do what I feel we should. And that is reading my favorite story from the late Darwyn Cooke. That's it, guys. Go hug one of your friends. Call your mom. Tell her you love her. Or just be nice to someone in the comments. I don't know. I'll see you guys soon.